Hello and welcome to Angora Poets World Cafe. I'm Mo Singer and I'm one of your poets. Hey, we are on 9/11, hint, uh, which will not determine the content of our reading, but it is September 11th to 2022. And we're going to start with 8 Angora poets, and who knows who might be joining us later on. And I have the pleasure of opening this up and will forward in advance thanking you for watching this on YouTube and joining us on our page, Angora Poets World Cafe on Facebook, where we've now reached a whopping 95 members. But from very unique sources. So that's my promo on this, and I have the pleasure of announcing our first poet tonight, who is here in Paris and working hard on publications coming out of New York City, like Poets Wear Prada, you know. And so let's bring on Jack Cooper. Hello, Jack.
Hello, Mo. Hello, everyone at Angora. A technical question. Inspired by Bill last week, I wanted to read a poem in Italian that I had translated for a eternally forthcoming collection anthology called The Bug Book, which has been was done before I joined Poets Wear Prada. It features all sorts of people. I thought I would read the Italian and read my translation. And then, so would that count as 1 or 2?
1.
Just 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as it doesn't go the distance of Othello, you know.
Oh.
Well, anyway, please let's hear it.
Okay.
You know.
All right. Well, we'll see how it goes. I'll start with something of my own, which is called Stanislavski Regrets. If I could only escape, quit this uncertain, interminable intermission, hear the bell sound retreat, go on with the part I am, I have not since been playing, neither will nor well enough again. And then the curtain fall, deluge in the midst of getting to, remembering my next line.
Okay. All right. Give it up to Mr. Stanislavski.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Good man. Okay, so here's the poem. It's called El Grillo Zoppo,
which means
the limping cricket.
Okay, now I would ask that you read it first in English and then in Italian.
Oh, okay.
So that we have an understanding.
Yes, that's right. That's more simple. All right, let me go to that. So it's written by a fellow named Carlo Alberto Salestri, who was known as Trilussa. And he dates from the late 19th he died in 1950, actually. So a saltatorial is the leg that a cricket jumps with. Okay.
Talk about on the good foot.
Yeah. So I'd sole saltatorial to stand on by then, cricket was saying. The other one that I missed still dangled from the tiny loop of string attached to it. And my end of the bargain turned me captive, the noose around my foot, tethered to a mere youngster. There was but one thought I had in mind: hobble back into a garden. The pain endured was enormous. Yet the drop of blood that sprang from the spot where my leg tore burst in the sun like a spark that had exploded. And maybe one day God will see fit to consecrate all the blood spilled drip by drip that we serve up, so that the word liberty can be spelled.
Okay. It would be interesting to know why, in what historical context he's discussing bondage and liberty. Was he reflecting on something going on socially?
I would think, I don't know that much about him.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
I mean,
Okay,
when was the Risorgimento? It was like 18, so this would have been just before his birth. I don't know, maybe he died in 1950, so he could have been responding to Mussolini.
Yeah, like dissonant Soviet writers used to put metaphors in their poetry so that Stalin wouldn't catch on outright that it was against him.
Yeah.
And they would save themselves from being shot.
Right.
Okay.
Right. That's it. Yeah, that's an old game.
Well, yeah. Wow. Okay. So now we're gonna hear it in
Do you want to hear the Italian?
Please.
All right.
Si,
So
si, si.
it's called El Grillo Zoppo. Ormai me reggo su una tancia sola, diceva il grillo. Quella che mi manca, ma rimase attaccata alla cappiola. Quando m'accorsi d'esse prigioniero, con laccio al piedi, in mano a un ragazzino. Non tebi è un pensiero che rivola un giardino. Il dolore fu grande, ma la stilla di sangue e sorti sulla ferita brillò nel sole come una favilla. E forse un giorno Dio benedirò ogni goccia di sangue che servita per scrivere la parola libertà.
Wow. Okay. Grazie. Okay. Not too bad in your pronunciation there, Jack. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
And so when might we expect that to be in print?
I wish I knew. It's literally, it's finished. It's finished. It has a cover. It's completely laid out. The problem is that there are so many authors who did not submit bios that for some reason it's the bios that
I see.
that are holding the whole project up. Rita Dove it gave us a poem for that.
Rita Dove. Oh wow.
Rita Dove,
Okay.
yeah. It's a spectacular book.
I once interviewed her on public radio after she won the Pulitzer. When she, after she got hooked up with Galway Kinnell and they became lovers, she went from being a locally known poet in Ohio, I think, to the Pulitzer winner. So I'm, like Monica Lewinsky, be selective with who you do it with.
Right. I didn't know that she was involved with Galway Kinnell.
Yeah, Galway Kinnell took her from local.
Yeah. In the process, I corresponded with her, always through a secretary.
She was a very nice woman in the interview she gave to me.
Nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, I met her at Poet's House originally.
And okay, great.
Anyway,
that's great. And one about these metaphors that are used to describe dissonant and objection to situation, we should all remember the great Russian composer Dmitri Shostakovich. 1 minute he was in Stalin's favor, the next minute Stalin was going to execute him. So, and then he gave him a reprieve. And so Shostakovich wrote the Second Symphony, which Stalin listened to, thinking it was a lovely folktale. Shostakovich was doing a character assassination on Stalin, and Stalin never got it. So there's the
Oh,
justice.
good.
There's the justice. I had to put in a word for Shostakovich.
Yeah.
Okay. So three's a charm,
All right.
Miki.
So I'm really pushing the envelope here because I also have a poem I translated some time ago, a book called Wax Women by a French poet named Jean-Pierre Lemel. And it's a story about wax women. The wax woman involved is a woman named Betty. And
Is she?
Huh?
Well, is she done up?
I'm sorry, she's a mannequin. She's a mannequin.
Yeah, okay, that's someone to know. Okay.
So she is in fact the heroine of this whole story.
Cool.
So I guess so
in English.
So I guess I should read it in English first.
Please.
All right. So this is called Foibles of the Nape. Betty, dear wax, doesn't like children. Fly too low, lose interest as well in hopscotch and impertinence, turning their playthings into pitfalls, abandoned on sidewalks, spoiled, made of oil, congealed, unable to see. She prefers the trees, the trunks perfume, their branches cries. Besides, they are hospitable to her nape. When tired, she decides to lean on them. Perhaps I should explain. With women, and particularly with waxed ones, weakness resides in the nape. There in this fragile, there in this frail, alembic, recalcitrant and small, between the last white pile of the brain and everything else that delicately, guilefully moves, in this peril intrinsic between the breath and the sail that takes off. In the heart of New York, there is a garden planted with great trees, reserved for wax women who are troubled in the nape. Nearby is a large swimming pool, poorly maintained, with a trifle of moss that gnaws at the veins of the tile, next to a forest. This is incredible. Go there, preferably on an evening in June. Trees are all singing behind the iron fence, and the women unmoved by compliment.
Okay. Well, that's a strange take on it. Okay.
I love it.
I like it.
Yeah.
It drew up what do you call it? Almost ghostly imagining in my case.
Yeah.
There they are. Oh, great. Okay, well, good luck. I mean, congratulations for the translations. And we're glad to hear we're glad to hear someone's second language on Angora. So you drop right in on World Cafe. So thank you, Jack.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
And, okay, so we will stay in Paris tonight. As wow, so far we have wow, we are 4 out of 6 or 4 out of 7 in Paris. Anyway, we're going to call on our trilingual trilingual poetess, Carolina. Welcome, Caroline.
Hi. I also understand Italian, but I don't translate it. um, well, hi, everybody.
Hi.
It's been a long time without coming. Now my Zoom works. Wow. Hooray. Um, well, let's begin with an English version of my Glacier Dream. So the title is Glacier Dream. The black winds of carbon inks the landscape. The translucent becomes opaque. Neve no longer reflects. The permafrost hits up, swinging through. It's too hot to snow. The rain drips and accelerates the melting. Apathetic calcium phosphate. Carbonato hydroxyapatite. My bones vibrate from the silence of the rocks. I miss this pale blue that illuminates the bottom of chasms and crevices, luminous and profane, gurgle, crack, fused with mysterious lasers, sliding walls, shining, elusive. Where does the water of the glacier go when it does not return? Nothing is lost. Everything is transformed. But into what? I miss the ice, its snowy coat, protective cocoon that watches over the sleep of the eight, slow filling of the glacial reserves, hollow humps for chamois. Where are born the great rivers? Where does the water go? The castle of grandmother ice is melting day by day. The memory of the mountain is gone. The mass of ice slides down the slope in slow motion. Then I close my eyes in a vain attempt of freeze frame. I set up a dam to go back in time. I climb the cold waterfall of my childhood memories with feather. Is there a paradise for Glacier? Bonatti has taken his pillow. Abrupt disaster, this void. What to do when the time accelerates to the point to see a mountain collapse, a glacier to die in barely 30 years? May my tear go one day bless its flank, scattered in a few downy flakes, light as a caress, in this pale and deep blue wrinkled with cracks, shine again on the amazed smile of those who will find a way to save it. With the return of his woolly mammoth friend, will he succeed? Or should I ask Lady Holly and Bigfoot for their help?
Whoa, oh, applause-meter. Wow. Caroline, you've outdone yourself. Wow. What was the first language of that poem?
The first one was in French.
Wow. And you derived that in English as a second language for that poem. Wow.
I wanted everyone could understand.
Did everyone understand that?
I also translated it into Spanish because I think in South America they need also help for their glacier. They're melting also in Argentina.
Yeah. All the way to Paleolithic. Well, you went back a way. All right. Okay. You leapt forward by going so far back. That's very nice the way you did that. They fluidly juxtaposed, you know, your great imaginative leap. that took us all the way back to Pleistocene and Paleolithic, and when mountains shall, yeah, when mountains and glaciers shall fall and they shall melt.
Mm.
How to package that in one poem and make it so meaningful and not, yeah, I envy your skill on that. Thank you. Number two, Carolina.
Number two, well, it's a strong love declaration. um, I think it's better in English version than in French. Well, let's see. It's the first reading of this poem into English.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's a première.
Yes.
Make a wish. Hey, will you love me? I would like that you discover me and that you love me for real. No speeches, no promises, but something concrete in the real world, big and beautiful and sweet. Hey, will you love me? I know my monsters. Sometimes they try to replay the past. I will teach you to recognize them. They are badly disguised. If they know you, I will draw them a world of their own, where they will be happy, far from our home. Hey, will you love me? Even if sometimes it's a little messy, even if sometimes they are too big for me, if they steal my words, and I'm left with nothing but pain, a sea of tears, of anger and fear, or the rage to live, the rage to love and no words to say it, only a great jumble of words of aches and pains. Will you love me? Even if I scream, even if I cry, even if my disgust overflows and my terror rises, that I snot in your sweater, that I drool on your comforter, that in a nest of tissues I look like a hamster. Hey, will you love me then, stronger than my fear, to hold up the moon, to cry with me? Will you lend me sweet words? Will you lend me crazy words to sweeten my dreams, to keep the shadows away, to protect the flame when I'm nothing but tears? Will you still love me? Will you love me more, protecting the silence to keep the peace in the heart of the storm? Keep your eyes open, watching my back when I fall down, overwhelmed with fatigue, overwhelmed, defeated. Will you yet be there, to open your arms wide, to shed a tear, sketch a smile, find the word to laugh, and with your compassion, dancing in a laughing fit, the pieces of the puzzle suddenly put back together? I would like that you discover me and that you love me for real. No speeches, no promises, but something concrete in the real world, big and beautiful and sweet.
Okay. Bravo, bravo, bravo. Woo. And as I always like to ask, was that written to a certain individual? And if so, in your case, has he
The
read it?
first version was written for someone, and then I translated it for someone else into English and
Mm-hmm.
rewrite some parts of the poem. I
Mm.
guess now it is much better than the first version, more
Oh,
positive, more
oh,
funny.
yeah. Wow. That'd be a hard offer to turn down if I was the lucky individual who you directed that poem to. That would be a wake up call to whoever he is. All right. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, carry on. Three's a charm, dear Caroline.
This one I will read you. It's a short one. I will read both versions in English and in French, the original version. I wrote this poem with a friend. It was the first one we wrote together, and it's surrealistic, quite funny. So let's read it. The Cricket of the Stars. This is a quote from a Gary Snyder poem, but translated, it's a translation of translation, so sorry if it's not the good. That buzzing in your ears is the cricket of the stars. This buzzing, it amazes you. Its sound, August reveals to you. From the end of your dreams, the 10 waves and the 4 others that make a cycle. The moon agitates the waves, sifts. When the heart like a bell sound the hour that is promised to you, will you take the time to listen to it? Will you try to escape it? Will you be able to oxygenate yourself? Are you okay to combine us? Sport or phonic, you electrify yourself, no matter how excessive the tempo. It's your vibe. If the moon suits you, know that the peas have a sweet taste. Peas. With great faith, do not leave the clue of your emotion, whatever the case, overflow to light up the whole parliament. Surely, when some speak, all lie. Only those who keep silent, only those who remain mute in their chairs, have something not to say, something to banish. Fortunately, the sleep of the tongue is there to dynamite the false pretenses. The sleep of the tongue is benevolent. It amazes the icy speeches on the big screens. It moves the tired ears of its small giant effects. It likes to remind us that sometimes the powerful lie, but that magnetize powerfully the wild gunbees and the white knight.
Whoa. Wow. Okay. May I say wonderfully uncharacteristic of your very good poetry in the past. Wonderfully uncharacteristic of your very good poetry. Get that full meaning there. That's great. That's great.
So, do I read the French version of this one?
Go ahead, please. Allez.
Il y aura plus d'émotion. Le crayon des étoiles, ce bourdonnement, il t'émerveille, son bruit auguste te dévoile. Du bout des rêves, les 10 vagues et les 4 autres qui font cycle, la lune agite les flots, tamise. Quand le cœur comme un grelot sonne l'heure qui t'est promise, prendras-tu le temps de l'écouter? Essaieras-tu d'y échapper? Sauras-tu t'oxygéner? Es-tu OK pour nous combiner? Sport ou phonique, tu t'électrises, quel qu'en soit le démesuré tempo. C'est ta vibe. Si la lune te convient, sache que les petits pois ont un goût sucré. Petits pois, à grande foi, ne laissez pas l'indice de votre émoi, quel que soit le cas, déborder démesurément, à éclairer tout le Parlement. Assurément, quand certains parlent, tout le monde ment. Seuls ceux qui se taisent, seuls ceux qui restent muets sur leur chaise, ont quelque chose à ne pas dire, quelque chose à bannir. Heureusement que le lapsus veille pour dynamiter les faux-semblants. Le lapsus est bienveillant, il émerveille les discours glacés sur les grands écrans. Il émoustille les escourdes fatiguées de ces petits effets géants. Il se plaît à nous rappeler à nous que parfois mentent les puissants. mais que s'aimantent puissamment les combis fauves et le chevalier blanc. the um, the White Knight is a
Yeah.
character of a movie I
Okay.
love, so it's just a quote also.
Ok, well, merci pour la version, ouais, la version originale en français. Merci. Thank you. All right.
Pleasure.
Keep it going. Keep it going. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our next poet who's also residing in Paris. It's a Paris heavy night tonight, and here he is teaching. I think he's still teaching and recovering from some health situations and writing his poetry. Bill Strangmeyer, Bionic Bill, you're on.
Thank you, Mo. Okay, a quote from Albert Einstein. As far as the laws of mathematics refer to reality, they are not certain. And as far as they are certain, they do not refer to reality. This is called Box of Runes. Metal so fragile compared to a thought, probability lessened in the course of a life, a puff of air from behind the invisible curtain. The hidden world, unprovable, beckons like a ghost. It's ancient, a phantom offering something, a roomy, warm freshness with an open smile. Some would pay with money for a stitched-on copy. Can there be true answers? Where does the counterweight lie? What do the 36 elements spin? Do they answer the question? The discussions continue, the answers so full they add up to a tower, a bow tree, a metal beast, a system, and the tablets of stone with a cryptic obscurity maintain we don't know, hint at cyclic eternity, and the fool's gold still offers its glow in the shade of our plausible yearning.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That was a great lead by Shakespeare. By Einstein. That was a great lead. Okay. Number 2, Bill.
Okay. From the brothers Karamazov. Since man cannot live without miracles, he will provide himself with miracles of his own making. He will believe in witchcraft and sorcery, even though he may otherwise be a heretic, an atheist, and a rebel. This is called Witchcraft and Magic. She told her friends of my offense, the word that she swore was misused, the words that proved me appalling and dense, that weren't mine, though I was accused. She told her friends that my love was king, that the love was my glory and my born-to realm, or more or less to that effect in the words she could sing. I had no desire to dominate or yearning to overwhelm. And I knew nothing of this battle of spells cast at my image and meant to change my face in a contest of golden or gilded and iron or rusted out bells from the white side and black in their corporate seekings of grace. This is a contest long fought, high and low, by the only two forces that manage humanity's miserable wars. There is no war of the sexes, of race, or of class, no common foe. We all are for light or for dark, and the choice is always ours. You hear gossip, witness power, seduce the one, fall in love. This is the witchcraft, the actual magic. No fairies or witches with warts on the nose, no dueling with wands, no meaning or magic at all to a crow or a dove. There is only desire for good or for ill, and evil's the power that grows. To help or bring harm to others, the world, is the long civil war. You can wish to flee life by believing in magical things and avoid the hard work of just life. Think the truth is a bore, or cheat and manipulate as if you were wearing King Solomon's rings. And are you a good witch or are you a bad witch, or maybe just young? But if you choose old, you will see how the magic can fade, and it won't really matter how busty or how you are hung. So spin all your rumors and lies and you'll see how they're frayed. So this is my take on how witchcraft and magic are real. There are other examples and reasoning gnarlier still. But look at your heart, choose a camp, make your deal, but always remember, whichever you choose, there's a bill to be paid in the real world. The afterlife is over that wall.
Mm, okay. Nice. And let's not leave out the ever popularity, if you will, of astrology. People, people. I'm still hearing from people who actually follow and believe in astrology. Maybe some here do also. I don't know.
Well, I believe that's magic, but it's a different kind of magic than is being sold.
Okay, gotcha.
It's
Okay.
manipulation,
Hmm. All right. Well, what's your next what are we up to, like freeze a charm, Billy?
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, okay. This is called So Looking Forward to the Dance. It's all going away. It's all going. I'm not talking of me. It's the dying old world that I weep as we descend into a lower hard land, a lower room that holds our thoughts. I'm thinking of hope and the ease of life. I'm thinking of mazes created in chalk, the chalk of electrons, how nothing is real or nothing is meant to be real. But you'll see from your coffin the end game they've planned as you watch. You can watch from your slot in your coffin as the History Channel plays newsreels of now and the zombies will vote for the end of elites. Did you know you're elite? Do run, do run the run de, 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 do.
All right. All right. I was expecting you to come on with the next verse. All right, great, Billy. Good way to go out, man. It's always good to hum on the way out. Well, thank you, man, and keep it up, babe. Wow, dispelling the magic from the myth. That's always good. All right, we're going to go to the next poet here. The next poet here will be, we're going to leave Paris, leave France for the moment, and go all the way over to San Francisco and call up Dharma Dave, or Rorschach, as you will. Dharma Dave, you are on.
Nice. Great to be here with Angora Poets. September 11th, 2022. And I thought maybe some old English verse to start out with. And this one is by Edward Lear. The Jumblies. 1. They went to sea in a sieve, they did. In a sieve they went to sea. In spite of all their friends could say, on a winter's morn, on a stormy day, in a sieve they went to sea. And when the sieve turned round and round, and everyone cried, "You'll all be drowned," they called aloud, "Our sieve ain't big, but we don't care a button, we don't care a fig. In a sieve we'll go to sea." Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. 2. They sailed away in a sieve, they did. In a sieve they sailed so fast, with only a beautiful pea green veil tied with a ribbon by way of a sail to a small tobacco pipe mast. And everyone said who saw them go, "Oh, won't they be soon upset, for the sky is dark and the voyage is long. And happen what may, it's extremely wrong in a sieve to sail so fast." Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. 3. The water, it soon came in, it did. The water, it soon came in. So to keep them dry, they wrapped their feet in a pinky paper all folded neat, and they fastened it down with a pin. And they passed the night in a crockery jar, and each of them said, "How wise we are. Though the skies be dark and the voyage be long, yet we never can think we were rash or wrong, while round in our sieve we spin. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve." 4. And all night long they sailed away, and when the sun went down, they whistled and warbled a moony song to the echoing sound of a coppery gong in the shade of the mountains brown. "O Timbalo, how happy we are when we live in a sieve in a crockery jar, and all night long in the moonlight pale, we sail away with a pea green sail in the shade of the mountains brown. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve." 5. They sailed to the western sea, they did, to a land all covered with trees. And they bought an owl and a useful cart and a pound of rice and a cranberry tart and a hive of silvery bees. And they bought a pig and some green jackdaws and a lovely monkey with lollipop paws and 40 bottles of ring-bo-ree and no end of Stilton cheese. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. 6 and last. And in 20 years, they all came back. In 20 years or more, and everyone said, "How tall they've grown, for they've been to the lakes and the Torrible Zone and the hills of the Kankly Bore." And they drank their health and gave them a feast of dumplings made of beautiful yeast. And everyone said, "If we only live, we too will go to sea in a sieve to the hills of the Kankly Bore." Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. That's my new theme song.
Well, okay. Let's hear it for the revival of lyric poetry in Ron. Hey, David, that sounded so much like coming out of the same period as the lakefront poets who were opium heads, and that sounds like a lakefront poet on opium. Am I getting close to the biography of that poet?
So Edward Lear, who's noted for his nonsense verse, and I'll have to look him up, but I don't really know his biography, but I think he's like late 19th century is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, okay.
Late 19th century. He traveled a lot.
Yeah,
And
he's a real character.
Story about him that I especially like is that he was, I guess he was traveling in Italy, and he was somehow he was mistaken for the Prime Minister of UK, and held, in contempt and also in captivity.
Oh, I see.
About which he then commented, "Some have greatness thrust upon them."
Yeah, right. Oh, right. His most famous work is probably The Owl and the Pussycat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love, love.
The cadence so reminded me of Lakefront, like Coleridge would Tale the Ancient Mariner.
Yeah,
That's what.
well, Coleridge would be earlier though. He was earlier.
Okay,
He was
I like this.
definitely heavy into the opium when he wrote.
Yeah, and they did well on the opium. So I'm not one to put them down. We're reading 100. It's 101 Arabian Nights that was written on opium and hashish. I mean,
Yeah.
Was the
we
person
start.
from Porlock his dealer?
Oh, I don't know.
Person from Porlock.
More research is required.
All right.
That's a good question, Bill. No one really knows who he is.
Mm.
Of course, a lot of people say that there was no person from Porlock. Keats also was a smoker of opium,
Uh-huh. Okay.
and Edward Lear was quite a good painter as well.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, the book is full of many of the pieces have his illustrations or more like cartoons.
Yeah,
All right.
I've seen his watercolor.
Wow.
Well, can we hear number two?
Yeah,
Dharma Dave.
yeah. So number two, another English piece. This is by the first modern writer and who remains one of the few truly modern writers, Lewis Carroll, from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. And we have Alice in conversation with the caterpillar.
Here we go.
And repeat, "You are old, Father William," said the caterpillar. Alice folded her hands and began. "You are old, Father William," the young man said, "and your hair has become very white. And yet you insistently stand on your head. Do you think at your age it is right?" "In my youth," Father William replied to his son, "I feared it might injure my brain. But now that I'm perfectly sure I have none, why, I do it again and again." "You are old," said the youth, "as I mentioned before, and have grown most uncommonly fat. Yet you turned a back somersault in at the door. Pray, what is the reason for that?" "In my youth," said the sage, as he shook his gray locks, "it kept all my limbs very supple. By the use of this ointment, 1 shilling the box, allow me to sell you a couple." "You are old," said the youth, "and your jaws are too weak for anything tougher than suet. Yet you finished the goose with the bones and the beak. Pray, how did you manage to do it?" "In my youth," said his father, "I took to the law and argued each case with my wife. And the muscular strength which it gave to my jaw has lasted the rest of my life." "You are old," said the youth. "One would hardly suppose that your eye was as steady as ever. Yet you balance an eel on the end of your nose. What made you so awfully clever?" "I have answered 3 questions, and that is enough," said his father. "Don't give yourself airs. Do you think I can listen all day to such stuff? Be off, or I'll kick you downstairs." "That is not said right," said the caterpillar. "Not quite right, I'm afraid," said Alice timidly. "Some of the words have got altered." "It is wrong from beginning to end," said the caterpillar decidedly, and there was silence for some minute.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. Well, you go places, but You go places and looking up some old school poetry, Dharma. That's great.
I think
That was very
it's
good.
really important, that it sort of reminds us of how we're part of a very, very, very long tradition.
Yeah. Okay.
And what's like it's our step in the, our part in the poetry marathon, and others will follow after us as well.
True. And it reminds me that for a while, particularly in the 90s, where the poetry deacons were saying poetry rhyme is bad. Poetry rhyme is bad. And then hip hop came along and said, we're throwing all the deacon dictates out. This is hip hop, babe, and I'll rap what I want. And all of a sudden, the poetry establishment backed off with saying rhyme is bad. So glad that you brought us to some of the earlier works, the value of rhyme, lyrical rhyme.
Yeah.
I know there's a poet in New York that recites that while standing on his head.
Yeah.
Better him than me to do that.
And what's his name, pray tell?
It'll come to me. God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to be there when he sneezes.
Yeah, he also does stuff in Middle English. He's hilarious.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, Dharma, given the time allotted for those two pieces, can we move on to the next poet now?
Actually, I had something special for the third, so if we could do that, I would appreciate that, Mo, in this instance. Is that all right?
Well,
It won't take too long.
Well, I defer to you, Dave. Go with it.
Okay, so this one is another old poem, French, but an English translation. But Caroline said very graciously she would read the French first, and then I'll follow with the translation into English. This is Baudelaire.
Well, I'm sorry, but I think we benefit more by you going in English, and then we're
English
hearing
first
it in
and then
French.
follow with the French?
Yeah, because we're mostly
Okay.
Anglophone here, so
Gotcha.
help us
Okay.
out.
I'm going to read the English, and then we'll have the original French version. Okay, Charles Baudelaire. Get drunk. You must always be drunk. Everything A1. That is the only question. So as not to smell the horrible burden of time that breaks your shoulders and leans you towards the earth. You have to get drunk unceasingly. But on what? Yin, poetry, or virtue, as you please, but get drunk. And if sometimes on the steps of a palace, on the green grass of a pit, in the blockhead solitude of your room, you wake up, drunkenness already diminished or disappeared. Ask the wind or the wave, to the star, to the bird, to the clock, to all that flees, to all that omit, to everything that rolls, to all that sings, to everything that speaks. Ask what time it is, and the wind, the wave, the star, the bird, the clock will answer you, it's time to get drunk, for we are not the martyred slaves of time. Get drunk all the time, on yin, poetry, or virtue, as you please.
Okay. As you please, Caroline.
So the original version is Enivrez-vous. Il faut être toujours ivre. Tout est là. C'est l'unique question. Pour ne pas sentir l'horrible fardeau du temps qui brise vos épaules et vous penche vers la terre. Il faut vous enivrer sans trêve. Mais de quoi? De vin, de poésie ou de vertu à votre guise. Mais enivrez-vous, et si quelquefois, sur les marches d'un palais, sur l'herbe verte d'un fossé, dans la solitude morne de votre chambre, vous vous réveillez, l'ivresse déjà diminuée ou disparue, demandez au vent, à la vague, à l'étoile, à l'oiseau, à l'horloge, à tout ce qui fuit, à tout ce qui gémit, à tout ce qui roule, à tout ce qui chante, à tout ce qui parle. Demandez quelle heure il est. Et le vent, la vague, l'étoile, l'oiseau, l'horloge vous répondront. Il est l'heure de s'enivrer pour n'être pas les esclaves martyrisés du temps. Enivrez-vous, enivrez-vous sans cesse de vin, de poésie ou de vertu à votre guise. Charles Baudelaire.
Charles Baudelaire. Okay. Homage to Charles Baudelaire.
Thanks, Caroline.
Baudelaire is my favorite French poet, and I used to live in a building on the Ile Saint-Louis where Baudelaire had rented a room for Jean Duval, who was one of his muses.
Okay. Okay. Well, we drank that up. We drank that up, David. We drank that up, Caroline. All right. How it sounded more elegant in French, as French often does sound so elegant. A drinking poem. It sounded so elegant when spoken in French. You know, gotta give it up, folks. Gotta give it up. L'élégance. Okay.
It sounds elegant, but I don't think that Baudelaire was such an elegant man.
Well, okay, good enough. Well, you know, sometimes slobs, you know, drive Mercedes-Benz, you know, as to his language, you know. And there's this joke about that these people were at the United Nations and a guy got up to speak and he spoke entirely in French and their second language was English and Eastern European. So one said to the other, wow, I didn't really get that. And the other one said, I didn't understand a word he said, but French sounds so good. There you go. Okay, we're going to move on now. We're going to take this show on the road. I think we're going to Atlanta tonight with somebody who presently can be called the hardest working man in poetry these days. So let's bring on Pablo. Ayo, you're on. Yo, Pablo.
Thank you. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yes, good. Okay. So this first poem is titled Imagine, and I will bookend this poem with quotes from the late congressman from Alabama, who was brutally beaten on the march over the bridge in Selma. So you should know his name by now. Visionaries like the poets of Angora, Caffé, are often so far ahead of their time, they must sequester themselves in poetry, in virtual cafes, in philosophy, to express what they hope to see. Imagine a world of one color, one culture, one love, where the only worthy measures are the mind, the spirit, and the soul, and the greatest human treasure is quality of character, not quantity of gold. Imagine a world of two minds, two spirits, two souls, where my survival depended on you and your precious hands held the key to unlock shackles of strife and poverty, and resolve two greatest threats to humanity, would you dare turn that key? Would you dare take command? Would you dare lend a hand to save this world from itself, to restore sanity to a world obsessed with strife and vanity, and build a world of one color, one culture, one love? We are one people, one family, the human family. What affects one of us affects all of us. Ayo. So that's my first.
All right, that was wow. So you're paying homage to John Lewis from Alabama,
John Lewis, correct.
who marched in 1965 when
Yep.
when that sheriff turned the dogs and the tear gas and the mace on those people, and was
Absolutely.
there. What was it, 2-3 years ago, with the commemoration of the Selma March? He marched, still elected to office, as a very aged man, and they gave a lot of tribute to him because John Lewis was a fighter for his people throughout his whole career.
Right.
So it's great that you mentioned him. He was truly an elected official who was heroic, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for that. I actually read that piece at KGB Cafe, and I
Right.
asked for them to give me the name of the person who made those quotes. I offered $20 for a drink. no one got it, so I had to
Wow.
give them a bunch of clues. Yeah, so that was interesting. Yeah. So my second piece is titled. It's actually written by Martin Carter, who's arguably the Caribbean's greatest poet. He is Guyanese. He was born in the 40s, I think it was 42, and was a key voice in the struggle for independence from the Queen. May her soul rest in peace. Martin Carter was actually, his poems were so powerful and unforgettable once you heard them, that they triggered such anger from the powers that be, because he spoke truth to power. He was the voice of the voiceless. And so he was actually imprisoned on orders from the Queen. So it's rather timely that I should read this. This poem is titled, "This is the Dark Time, My Love." And it's from his book titled Poems by Martin Carter. This is the dark time, my love. All round the land, brown beetles crawl about. The shining sun is hidden in the sky. Red flowers bend their heads in awful sorrow. This is the dark time, my love. It is the season of oppression, dark metal and tears. It is the festival of guns, the carnival of misery. Everywhere the faces of men are strained and anxious. Who comes walking in the dark nighttime? Whose boot of steel tramps down the slender grass? It is the man of death, my love. The strange invader watching you sleep and aiming at your dream. Ayo.
Okay.
So that's Martin Carter. That's powerful.
And where in the Caribbean, please? Was
Guyana. So he's from Guyana, yeah. So then British Guyana, which was under the rule of the Queen.
Okay, right, yeah.
Right. And so as a result of his powerful poetry, which were protest and resistance poems. He
Yeah.
was seen as a threat to the
Yeah.
status quo, to the colonizers, and he was in prison several times. And his poems were banned from being read in public. So he is certainly a martyr for the cause of independence.
Yeah.
So it gives you another lens through which to look at the legacy of the Queen.
Yes, and given the tide of sympathy for the lady, a whole lot of people either don't know or wish to omit that side of
It's the
oppression.
latter.
Yeah,
It's the latter.
our queen can do it, just don't have your queen do it. That's privilege. All right.
Absolutely, absolutely. So my final piece is titled, I was going to read a piece from my book, but it's too long. So in the interest of time, I'll just do Corroded Treasure, which is kind of an old-fashioned poem, but it speaks to anyone who has experienced the joy and thrill, transient though it may be, of puppy love, followed by heartbreak.
Oof.
So this is titled Corroded Treasure. Corroded Treasure. When time, my treasured friend, and folly knew no end, then laughter pure did flow, raucous echoes from the soul. Woe whistled with the wind, claws never sinking in. Sin hovered in the dark, waging battles for the heart. Sparks of lust and love did fly, flashing doves white through the sky. Fledgling wings of flashing lies swept us both to frenzied eyes. Cries of passion, miles of joy ran by every girl and boy, left us grasping breathless air, pillows scattered here to there, a pair who knew such bliss as this would end with letters torn to bits and hiss like serpents seeking blood. Shattered dreams, pleasant lies. Oh, how the heart corrodes through time. Once my very treasured friend, now a folly come to end. Ayo. So that's
Okay.
Corroded Treasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Well, love over time. Love over time.
Yes,
Yeah. Sparks of love and lust, and then you go on to say, letters torn to bits. So
absolutely.
love in the test of time. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you, hardworking poet, lately the hardest working poet on the poetry scene. And
Thank you.
where can we get your EP, Pablo?
So my EP is under the handle Pablo GT, and it can be found on Apple Music. The title of the EP is This, D-I-S, Journey. So this would be the Creolese version of THIS in English. So it's my journey from the 60s when I was born to the 70s, to the 80s, to the 90s, into the 2000s. And it captured, in fact, the music video will be launched on September the 24th. And I'll share the link with you for the video,
wow.
which is, a very powerful video, which captures my medical journey. So I was actually on this corporate ladder track, if you will. And I got this rare autoimmune disease, which threw me off of that track and put me here today. So I wouldn't be here had I not gotten this affliction. So
Can you
so it's
put
a
that in the
blessing.
chat? Can you put that in the chat, Pablo?
Yes, I will. Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And when you record the EP, I wonder if with Dharma Dave help and somebody's help, we might be able to hear that clearly. When we come on an Angora Zoom, We've tried music before in the background. We've got mixed results. It would be nice if we could hear one of your EP tracks clearly. So maybe we can do a test run before we go on that,
Yeah.
that evening.
Yeah, I've done it before. I've done it before on Zoom. So
Okay.
it does work. I just have to share the sound with you, and then I would just perform the piece, or we can just
okay.
do a recording. Yeah, because I have that. I performed it recently in New York, 3 of the tracks. So I've got some
Great.
practice.
Oh, well, that's really good, man. That's really good. Okay. Very nice. Well, thank you very much, man. And
You're welcome.
keep up the good work. That's all. Ayo.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ayo.
So now we're gonna come back to Europe. Now, Laura Gravel, what country would you be in this evening?
I'm in Austria, the Mühlviertel.
Okay, well, here we are live from Austria with our woman Laura, who's been popping up as a reading poet and a published poet quite a lot lately. Kudos to you. And let's hear your first one, Laura.
Okay. I think most of you know I'm originally from Texas, and Texas made a very strange law, I guess it's a real law, that citizens could sue each other if someone was helping someone have an abortion. And this was my reaction to some of that, and even before, but also Roe versus Wade being overturned. So this is a visceral reaction. Here it is. It's called The Theft. We had a right for 50 years that now has been denied. We have lost respect, dignity, but more important, liberty in this confounded slide. We've got Abbott, Cornyn, Cruz, many Republicans to blame for these singeing female blues. These men ought to be accused of every choice and every voice they've buried with their news, of every moment and every foment incited with this case in pillaging the lives that women lose by taking what they choose. These men ought to be accused of every death and every breath they've stolen with this ruse, of every piece and every lease of time and place that women lose by taking what they choose. These men ought to be accused of every chase and every base thing that they have loosed, of every hurry and every worry in striking at the future that women lose by taking what they choose away.
All right. Thumbs up on that. Whoa. Okay.
Here.
Yep.
Well, I'm of an age that, I had the right for my life, for my fertile life, we could say. And it just it's just, I can't believe it. Just can't believe it. It's like going back into the Middle Ages, and it's so ridiculous that they say it's a precedent, because these laws that made abortion illegal are all from like the 1920s and 30s. Before that, in the US and in other countries, earlier times, women had abortions as a method of birth control, and that is the truth.
Okay.
And people helped them, and either people knew herbal ways to do it, or they they had other ways. Midwives helped them, and it's just ridiculous that it's just, well, I won't go into it. But the next thing, thank you, Mo, for that nice intro. The next poem. I've started writing some poems directly in German, and I did read one here before that was half German and English, the border crossing one. And so the next poem is called Nachtkirchen, and I wrote it first in German, and then because a sentence in German came to me, and then I tried to translate it, and I can give you some of what it means in English, but to be honest, it doesn't sound good in English. And then I translated it into French, and with a little help from my son and Caroline, got some grammar points and you know, a few spelling things. And so it's called Cherries of the Night is what it would be. And I'll give you some of the English, then I'll read it in German, and then Caroline has said she will read it for me in French. So the first part would mean, my granny speaks a pretty cherry tree language. Listen how the cherries fall. I feel pain. They fall so sweetly the last time. And it goes on to talk about the grandmother, who seems to become a sort of threatening, but also a bird-like creature. And there's sort of different, in my family, interpretations that it's the grandmother becoming a bird, or that the grandmother is sort of a monster. So she either fully becomes a bird or a monster, depending on your interpretation. So that's what I'm going to give for the English version. So for the German version, Nachtkirchen. Sorry, I don't have it on.
Scheiße, scheiße.
Okay, that's right. Meine Oma spricht eine schöne Kirschbaumsprache. Hört zu, wie die Kirschen fallen. Ich spüre Schmerz, die fallen so süß, das letzte Mal. Hört zu, meine Oma spricht, die Worte fallen rot und saftig, obwohl manchmal fliegen sie wie Vögel, wie Kolibris, die Süßblut suchen, wie Fliegenschnäpper, die Fleisch suchen. Fliegen sie wie die Zeit, Oberseite, graubraun. Wie meine Oma, die eine schöne Kirschbaumsprache singt. Sie pfeift das Schlüssellied. Öffne, öffne, lass mich herein, gib mir die Schlüssel, lass mich dabei sein. Aber während das Wetter schön ist und der Vogel küsst, der Kirschbaum bricht und fällt hart, ausgebreitet wie die Flügel meiner Oma. Sie landet mit deutlichem dunklen Augenstreif, wie ein Raubwurger, der nach Beute späht, die Federn scharf gezähnt, die Krallen wie fest geschweißt. Sie vibriert mit metallischem Gesang, schaut nach kleinen Eidechsen, zielt auf Großinsekten. Sie spießt Mäuse auf, so wie mich. Aber lass sie in Ruhe, ausgebreitet. Hört zu, wie die Kirschen fallen. Den Schmerz spüre ich noch, diese Nachtkirschen zu verlieren. Sie fallen so süß zum letzten Mal.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, and if
Okay,
anyone wants,
Caroline, let's go into the French version now, Caroline,
yeah,
please.
Caroline's going to do it, and just in case anyone wants to follow it, it's on the chat.
Oh, great. Oh, great.
Les cerises de nuit. Ma grand-mère parle une belle langue cerisier. Écoute comment les cerises tombent. Je sens la douleur. Elle tombe si doucement la dernière fois. Écoute, ma grand-mère parle. Les mots tombent rouges et juteux, bien que parfois ils volent comme des oiseaux, comme les colibris qui cherchent le sang doux, comme les gobe-mouches qui cherchent de la viande. Ils volent comme le temps, le dos gris-brun, comme ma grand-mère qui chante une belle langue cerisier. Elle siffle la chanson des clés. Ouvre, ouvre, laisse-moi rentrer. Donne-moi la clé, laisse-moi être là. Mais alors qu'il fait beau et que l'oiseau l'embrasse, le cerisier se casse et tombe durement, étalé, comme les ailes de ma grand-mère. Elle atterrit avec un bandeau noir, comme une pie-grièche grise qui épie sa proie, les plumes aux dents crantées, les griffes fermement soudées. Elle vibre d'un chant métallique, traque les petits lézards, cible les gros insectes. Elle empale les souris. Comme moi. Mais laisse-la en paix, étalée. Écoute comment les cerises tombent. Je ressens toujours la douleur de perdre ces cerises de nuit. Elles tombent si doucement, une dernière fois.
Mm. Wow. What a feat. The quality of the work in German translated into French for Angora Poets World Cafe. Now that is right on the button, honey. Both of you women, thank you. It's nice that you're collaborating with one another as well. We've done that in the past. It's good to hear it again. Okay, so did we that's been late? Did we get to free as a charm, or what did we get to, Laura?
Well, it was one and then two languages of this other, or almost two and a half, I guess.
Okay, all right. Anyway, that was fantastic. And where can we find? Where would you like us to find your most recent work, Laura?
Mine?
Yours.
Well, on my YouTube.
Yeah, right.
There are a number of performances, and there's also one feature I did lately that I only have one, the one from David Leo Serrois first. That was you all have heard some pieces of that, but it's all together, and that's on my Facebook. The feature a little bit down in the posts, and then I will post that on my YouTube. But there's lots of other pieces on the YouTube, and yeah. So I will post when I get the other one. I'll post the other one from the Time to Arrive. And on my Facebook, you can find posts also of things that are published that are online that you can find.
Well, that's just great. And I encourage all of us, all the Angora poets, we have Angora Poets World Cafe Facebook page. I encourage each and every one of you to submit your work, written, spoken, videoed, on our page so that we can enjoy your work on that page. And we have, like, as I said, we're up to about 90 members now. Many of whom are very quiet. They're from Turkey and some areas in Africa, and they choose to simply follow us. Okay, so the point is the audience is a little larger than you may think. And so at any rate, in principle, I encourage one and all to freely, put your work down on the Angora Poets Facebook page. And if you want to source it, like from YouTube or from Facebook or wherever, or from my publisher, my EP, do it. This is your page. And so I put some of my stuff up there, and one reservation, I have not accepted submissions by poets who never come on Angora, even though they're invited. So I have told them in a nice way, we are not your publicity page. Live long and prosper. So that's how that's going to work. Because one guy who runs the series keeps bugging me to let his work on our page, but he himself never wants to come on, even though he does Zooms. So I had to tell the gentleman, we are not your publicity page. I'm sure your ego will stay quite large as it is. So, but for the rest of us, please feel free. Just please do so. All right, Laura, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And Caroline, you too. Thank you. It was a great collaboration. Okay, so now I think we're looking now at Claire and Liane. Hello, Claire.
Hello, everyone.
Hey there, Claire.
Hey, Mo.
Hey.
Hello. So, this is a poem I wrote a few days ago about the arriving of autumn. It's called Autumn, and it's literally me walking in the streets and trying to describe the atmosphere and how good I feel inside. And I'm observing people around me and the atmosphere of autumn, and that's what I do. So it's called Autumn. I walk absent-mindedly in the pink streets of Paris, reflecting on the wet pavement. The sky announces the eternal return of autumn, the relief after the heat, the happy melancholy of rain, celebrating our most inner selves. The recess of every year where the human mind pauses and takes their homes with them like turtles, wary of what they give to the world. Umbrellas like snails' shells advance joyfully in the scattered crowd, silent and gaping from the intimacy of their worlds. The bells from the distant shops, muffled by the rain, offer a feeling of familiarity, as if the city was home to each and every one of us, regardless of our true homes, lives, and friends. The population is sharing a vision. An unconscious communion links them together while they go to the bakery and bring their warm loaves of bread home under the friendly rain watching over us. The wet tires pass in an irregular rhythm, lulling our souls in their deepest dreams. Awake, autumn makes a promise of love and understanding, one that will accompany us to sleep.
Wow. Okay. Okay. For whom the bell tolls. All right. So, Claire, you're really in your own unique voice. You remind me of on the spot descriptive storytellers like Juna Barnes in Nightwood. Juna Barnes, the unsung great writer of The Lost Generation, who wrote that at Plus. Much of it takes place in the Caffé Tabac at Plus, A Sense of Peace.
Yeah.
And anyway, you remind me of that. Now, she was writing narrative, novel, but your accounts and her accounts are very striking in that way. La Vie Quotidienne, it's very, very interesting. So number 2, Miss Claire.
Thank you. I attend a workshop every Sunday of the month, one Sunday every month, with American poets. And it's a workshop where we do exercises. For example, we use a word generator, and then all of a sudden a word appears and we have to do one word per line. And this exercise was another one consisting in using a line from a poem we love as a first line and then writing a poem. So that's what I'm going to read. It's a very strange line coming from a movie, I believe. And then from there, you have to build another poem of yours. So it's called, How Many Rooms Full of Bones Does It Take to Impress You? How many rooms full of bones does it take to impress you? How many sacrifices to show you that I love you? My nape is covered with sweat from trying and trying, my arms covered with bruises. When will you finally accept your fate and fall like a swan, head bowing before me? When will you finally embrace otherness and let me breathe in your mouth, tongue in tongue? Let me be by your side, for your sighs are too lonely.
Oh,
How
wow.
many rooms full of bones does it take to impress you? Let yourself drift in the waves. Don't run away in the land. Be brave.
Wow. Okay. Whoa. Okay. Determined, inspirational. Okay. And what's your freeze a charm, Miss Claire?
Yes, my third one is about, it's something I wrote in a very small amount of time. I have to edit it, but it's about a woman I saw perform on a stage with her guitar, and I was trying to describe how she, how that resonated with me. It's entitled, She Sings as if to say heaven is at arm's length. Closing her eyes, the notes fly away like migrating birds seeking a more welcoming space. The green land they're looking for is found in memory. However harsh her past was, she remembers what lit her soul in unexpected times. These times when she would decide to get out of her shell and went out despite of the hostile rain, despite of the rage. She would go out hesitantly and would realize that getting out of oneself is the key to everything, the door to friendship, love, and discovery. In her song, the feeling of having lived something special is very clear. She closes her eyes like it is still there between her breasts. The note goes out, the memory remains.
Whoa.
Thank you.
Let the ghost go. All right. Okay, thank you. And okay, so what's up and coming for you, Claire? I know you've been busy.
Yeah.
I mean, are you featuring? Are you joining a group to read? We're having a lot of in-bar readings in Paris now, you know.
Yeah. For now, I just go to PLU, and I will return to Le Chat Noir, which has started again. And I'm gonna try to continue submit some of my poetry to some magazines. I was recently published by Jerry Jazz Musician, that publishes a lot of my poetry.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna try to be published some other places.
And you certainly will be published. That last issue of Jerry Jazz Musician, which I regret that I failed to submit to, now I really regret. There are something like 6 or 7 Angora poets in that edition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I regret you being one of them, Claire.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Thank you, Claire. Keep it up.
Yes, thanks.
Okay. And now it's my turn. And I was going to read you 3 because I had 3 poems translated into Italian by an Italian and submitted for an anthology in it, bilingual anthology, which was called, something of Italians on Americans, roughly translated. But I can't seem to call it up right now. So I'm going to skip it, but I will mention that I was very happy to be translated in Italian. So what I will do is read what I've been translated into Spanish, into Latin American Spanish, don't you know, from Central America. And these have been translated, in various places, by Onslaught Press, by the Ministry of Culture, a few other places. I will, for time's sake, I will simply read them in English, okay? I will simply read them in English. And one is called, these were on-site poems. These were not written, I was there where it happened in Nicaragua, El Salvador. Okay, so here we go. This one happened in El Salvador in 1989. And it's called The Semosista and the Martyr. El Gallo, grand monster of golden plume, crimson crown, haunched on power thighs, razor talons cocked, bayonet beak thrust forward, anxiously fixed on anything moving, onyx eyes jerking the crypts of its hard bone skull through this, his chosen domain. Springs for a little brown chicken, paralyzed in fear, she braces for the onslaught, prostrate beneath the ogre, pecked mercilessly about the neck, claws sunk in her breast. She succumbs to his sadistic whim and pleasure. Face pressed to the dust, she bears the anguished shriek of a sparrow circling overhead. Looking up, she cries, tell them this, I will gnaw at his ankles until he falls upon me. No more cock in the barnyard. Oh, thank you. Okay. All right. And now I will read you the second one, translated into Spanish and French. Of course, the English is, you know, the original version is my English here, and they were translated by people from the Ministry of Culture and from a PhD Spanish language student. All right, so here we go. This is called, whoop, I just keep knocking it out. Let's try this again. Okay, this one is called Rio Escondido, and that simply means hidden river. And it is the name of a river that winds from a little bit south of Managua on the Pacific coast of Nicaragua, all the way to the Atlantic Ocean, and it winds through thick jungle. You see, Nicaragua turns into thick jungle when it goes eastbound from Managua. So here we go, Rio Escondido. A rusted bow, this aged plow, this people's boat, churns a warm froth beneath the hull. Escondido, steaming slow and thick, a tropical soup. So torrid on deck, the banana peels itself. Skin of my face, a leather sweat. Eyes bulge through tanned mask. See simple fish dart and flee, invading piranhas, hatched in Miami. Tears for the massacre below. Tell me, what is the news from Washington? On morning in Bluefield, the Creole woman ranted, she raved, gone mad, as Reagan would be emperor. Her wild eyes fixed on mine. She moaned, my man is gone, cut like cane, hell of metal, called my name, Te amo, Nika. She moaned, earthquake, she wailed, palms shook, her grief-worn seam spread to a gaping hole, viscera oozing pain of foreign policy, of voodoo on this land. And set a potted wandering Jew laced with marjoram at my feet, She dance, cocoa black locomotion, an herbal cure for the poisonous gringo garden. She said, nurture and live, she laughed. How do I explain such things? How it goes here, bittersweet. Volcano Messiah was made a carnivore. Somoza fed children and a poet, spitting sulfur ash of their bones. Their winds are now defiance, descend on the rain, flooding the fields, hemorrhaging the furrows. Germinations chant, we rise whole again among you. You must come here to listen, share this experience. I cannot convey. Piercing sun splinters flesh, river mud cakes our thoughts baked brown, each breathing oven crammed from port to stern. I think of our sun above the hills, our river, Allegheny, rushing below the house, you in a morning bed. I brought you red and white carnations in a simple bottle filled with clean water. It was May Day, my love. Great rivers now divide us. We sweat in separate ways. Secretly, I name a flower for you. Pink lantana, red sawayoke, burst in floral cannon from swollen banks, choked thicket green, where La Contra nest for ambush, squirming parasitic larvae. We check our fear, blind truth before these maniacs. My song is De Colores and an Irish lullaby. Safe in a moment, suspended atop the twining current, there is no music, no gingerbread, no motion in the wombs, no amputees squatting on severed limbs, no contra killing peasants in coffee groves, no newborns slashed in their huts, no barefoot women lowering wooden boxes into the earth. You know, I have seen the Southern Cross, sparkling sprawl above the restive hills of Nicaribe, ascending snake trail canopied in palm bamboo. I navigated clear black night, sauntering along gravitational pull of calypso beat, drummed at the maypole of Mayoya, abandoned and danced till shy blue light crept from eastern edge of sky. I made a space for you in the crowd. How silly of me. Amidst caramel and cocoa faces, my pale palms wipe away, push back salt-sucked brows. I close my eyes, surrendering to your image. Face within my face blushes pink. So many pictures I would share with you. I would lend you my eyes, my ears. I would give you the taste on my tongue, odors and aromas of carnage and birth, covering you in teeming flesh sensations. Monkeys chatter, parrots caw, blackbirds of purple hue glide on human airways. Guitars strum the conga cadence, infants pass breast to breast, sucklings quicken to concussions, falling rockets threaten. Someone dies, someone born, a stanza added. Will Congress ever listen? Violet twilight draping jungle, translucent shadows condense, nocturne balms, salve anxious flesh. We fade to soften image. The tide succumbs inert. Escondido lies supine across the keel, and all is hush. In a pocket of this universe, seductive mysteries do unveil unfathomable fragility of being. I declare to you, as sure as Hemingway loved the Andalusian woman, square-shouldered in a simple apron, as sure as Sandinismo fights for dear life, sure as long night drapes this ancient river on its spine, this fragile vessel rests. I will remember today in pink, in red, in caramel and cocoa, melodious strings and resounding rhythms. And I will remember you, my love, at home among the swaying sumacs of our garden as we sang and danced so gracefully, making love to De Colores and parting to an Irish lullaby. Our dream of sailing to the far horizon of a determined little speck of earth where freedom is honey and justice is bread, always best when taken together.
Whoa.
Oh, okay, thank you.
One of the best poems I've ever heard from you, Mo.
Oh, well, thank you. I dare to ask the others. Thank you, Claire. Thank you. That's the poem that actually got me invited to France, to Paris, as I've said before. I wrote it in the afternoon during that attack on the boat, and we returned to Managua that evening on that barge. And the next night, I was asked to do a poetry reading in a hotel lobby in Managua. And just as we were about to start, the enemy, the Contra, the Reagan army of fascist mercenaries, they started bombing the outskirts of Managua. So everybody was rushing, flying home in cars and by foot. And we went into the hotel to do the poetry reading. And there was a couple government people that braved it, and some other curious people who showed up, a small crowd. And so I brought this poem out, penned on paper, and read it. And in the crowd was a representative of the French Ministry of Culture. And when she heard that poem, she said, "We got to have that in France." So I will bring it home and we will have it translated. And you will see the book and you will come for the opening. And so that's how I arrived in Paris.
Yeah.
And when the book was published, it was quickly withdrawn from American bookshelves. Bookstore owners were told that it was anti-American, and it was anti-American and against national security. So as a result, it was removed from bookstores because they didn't want, Big Brother blowback after they were told about that. But fortunately for me, original copies did survive, and then I had a nice moment here in Paris. So that's the history of that poem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, and thank you all for listening. And wow, that was one hell of a first round. Whew. I'll tell you what, this was okay. David, why don't you turn us off for a minute? Keep writing.
I just wanted to get a recording of the thanks, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Everybody. Thank everybody. Okay. Wellness. See you next Sunday.
See you then.
Bye.